Welcome to Collecting Chaos, and another video where I go over some of the more common defects that we see in comics. Here's a copy of Tarzan number 63 from December of 1954. The defect on this one that's just drives me right up the wall is right here. It's a subscription crease. Now, the best grade I would ever give a subscription crease on a comic would be maybe a fine minus. And that would be if the comic was pretty much perfect aside from that crease. With off-white to white pages and really no other major defects. This one, pages aren't bad. They're, I'm going to say cream to off-white. Of course, I've looked through it a little more. Color breaking subscription crease right down the front. On the back side, you can see dirt where it was, where the crease was. And there's some other minor defects on it. But all in all, I think I rated this one at a very good minus. Mostly because it's a subscription crease. If it didn't have that subscription crease, I might have gone as high as a very fine minus. Put this back in its mylight. And the next one we're going to look at is plop number 14. We were talking about Basil Wolverton and Sergio Aragonés and plop. And actually, I was talking about Basil Wolverton. Everybody else was talking about Sergio. And he is definitely in the comic. He did a lot of work in plop, along with some of the other artists. This was Wally Wood. But the reason I'm showing you this comic is, number one, if you look down here, it has this crease here. This is a corner crease. Has some minor corner creases here. Here you can see a good example of an edge crease. Let me zoom the camera in a little bit so you can see it a little better. In, not out. Okay, you can see those. You can see that edge crease a little bit better that way. The corner crease, and of course the abraded corner up here. This abraded corner looks like it started out as a blunt corner and just deteriorated from there. Don't get dizzy. I'm going to zoom you back out. Next, Pep number 171, June of 1964, and has a minor cover tear right here. I could fix that easily, but I'm not going to, because I don't think it's bad enough to warrant being fixed. I don't think it's going to get any worse. The spine has some abrasions on it because of use. It does have a 3/4 inch spine split. I believe it's 3/4. Yeah, it's 3/4. And the reason I know it's 3/4 just by moving it around is this line to this line is 1 inch, and each one of these dots is a 1/4 inch. So that makes that 3/4 of an inch. When you're grading a comic, having one of these cutting mats is a godsend. It makes it so much easier to determine how big a crease is. And that's important to me, and for the reasons I'll tell at a later date. Here we have a 3/4 to 3/4, well, about actually a little over 3/4, maybe a 7/8 corner crease, round corner. some staining. Staples are fairly good, reasonably tight, more staining. I mean, it's an old comic. It shows a little wear. Next, we're going to get a little older. Where's the comic that I was going to show you next? Ah, there it is. Our Fighting Forces, number 168 from August of 1978. It has a 1 1/4 inch spine split that is noticeable right off the bat, along with a corner crease. Now, a corner crease is only a corner crease if it's within 1 inch. And if I put this like this, you'll see that's at 3/4, so that makes that a corner crease. But that spine split is worse than we think, because it actually tears into the comic from here all the way down to here. It has a major crease on the back side that affects this side of the comic as well. It's, I mean, yeah, if it were pressed, it might improve it a little bit, but not that much. And the reasons I say that is, if you look here, you can see that that staple is definitely detached. This one, maybe not. Until you open it up. And once you open it up, you realize that the cover is completely detached. Now, a detached cover, fair to good, maybe good minus if everything else is really spectacular. Generally, if I have a detached cover, I go fair to good or less. Just automatically, that's what I give it. Pages are starting to get a little tiny bit brittle. I think it might have had a little water damage at some point. So because of the detached cover, I would already automatically make this a fair to good copy. Even if it was mint. If it was mint in every other way, I would still make it fair to good. Next up, I have a little bit older comic. This is Our Army at War from April of 1957, and it is number 57. First thing I want you to look at is the color. In particular, up here where it looks like there was a label or something that covered it, because this is a bluish color and everything else is a grayish color. That is a good sign that this comic has been subject to the UV radiation and had some problems with it. That's a defect. It has a corner crease. Even though it's 1.5 inches over here, it's only a 1/2 inch here. That makes it a corner crease. It has a long crease here that goes from 2 inches to 2 inches. Has a little bit of an edge crease here. And some problems with the spine. In fact, if I turn the spine up slightly, you'll see that it actually has a color breaking crease going the length of the spine. That's not a major defect. That is a minor defect, because you can't, I'm not going to say you can't, but it's very difficult to open and read a comic book and not end up with a color breaking crease along the spine. That's why it's a minor defect instead of a major defect. Now that, coupled with stress creases and stress lines, can accumulate to the point where it drops the grade significantly. Overall, this comic is in pretty good shape. It's pretty solid. Centerfold's intact, no problem. I would put that probably in the very good range. Now we have another Our Army at War. This one is a little bit newer, from August of 1972. This is number 248. And its problem is this cover tear right here. You know what? Because it looks more like it was ripped than torn, I wouldn't even try to fix that with mending tape. I'm just going to leave it like it is, because the mending tape won't fix it. You will always have that line. So I'll leave it as it is. Nice Joe Kubert cover. It's a shame about this, because you're looking at what could have been a fine, maybe a very fine comic, except for this. This just drops it down into the good range, in my opinion. It's a big defect that really affects the grade, because it affects how the comic presents and how the comic looks. Probably could use cleaning on the back. Don't think I'm going to do it though. And our last comic for the day, Our Army at War, number 270 from July of 1974. And this comic has a lot of problems. I mean, it has a crease here, a long crease here, some damage to the corner here, abrasion here to the point where some of the ink is lost. And when we open it up, it has a detached centerfold. Now the detached centerfold, according to Overstreet, puts it at a 2.5 grade at best. So if you see a graded comic, or somebody's advertising a graded comic, and it says that it's a 7.5 or an 8.0 and it has a detached centerfold, you know something's fishy. If you look here a few pages back, you'll also see where you have some rust migration, and that's the discoloration of the paper. Sometimes it's a lot worse than this, and if I can find one of the ones that I've got, I think one of my old Superboy comics might have some really bad rust migration, and I'll dig it out and show it to you. But I can feel where the staple is getting rusty. This would be a candidate for a replacement staple if I had a staple of the right age. It's important, if you do replace staples, that you replace them from comics that are of about the same age. So overall, that comic for me, yeah, probably good minus, maybe even a fair to good, because of a lot of the other stuff, and these long creases really affect the presentation of the comic. So anyway, that's it for today, and I hope you maybe learned something about some of the defects, and next Sunday I'll continue and I'll show you a few more, and I'll just keep doing it until I think I've covered just about all of them, and then we'll actually get into doing some real grading of comics, take into effect every little defect on it and various things. I'm a firm believer that when a comic is graded, it doesn't matter as to how old the comic is. The grade should be done the same way. If I buy a comic from the store tomorrow, I will grade it to the same standard as a comic that I bought 30 years ago, or a comic that's 40, 50 years old. I will grade them the same way, to the same standard. It's just the way I've done it. I've always done it that way since I started assigning grades to comics back in the early 70s. So that's going to be it for now, and I should have an interesting video for you on Monday, so you might want to check that out. It will definitely showcase my warped sense of humor. So see you then. Bye.